Welcome, everybody, to Nostradamus. We're going to do a kind of an overview of what CL did last week, as well as just kind of like a top down approach on, some of the or the objective little pieces of how CL is doing and where we think it may go next in terms of just setting up scenarios. It's always important to have a plan in the market because if you just sit there and just open up your browser or trading platform and just say, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and trade, yeah, that shit doesn't really work out. You're gonna get your fingers chopped. So yeah, this is what Mohammed and I like to do every single week. Sometimes we do it by ourselves, but this week we're going to go ahead and bless you guys with a video. So let's go ahead and begin. What we have is the daily chart on CL. You can kind of see that it has been forming these nice higher lows in the low 60s. And what happened? Okay, you're gonna have to put this on pause because don't put it on pause. God, I gotta shut this fuck up. Fucking book map. Fuck you. Fuck, dude. Jesus Christ. Keep that in the video. All right. You can obviously edit that out. God, it's so fucking annoying. Outstanding balance, blah, 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 rhythmic. Shut the fuck up. Fuck. All right. Okay. So let's catch up. So CL's been finding some pretty decent support in the 60s, and it's been scooping out some higher lows, but it's been capped out last week in the 65s. Finally, it made a break, which was pretty impressive. I believe this is the full session chart, or is this the
Yes,
RTH
this
only?
is the full
It's a
session
full
chart.
session. Cool, cool. Yeah. Can you show the difference between the two? Can you actually bring up just the RTH?
The RTH, oof, I may not have that up because I don't really look at RTH for
Yeah, that's fine.
CL.
RTH is bullshit anyways. So, um, some people will argue, "Oh, I only watch the RTH session because that's where most of the volume is traded." Okay, so basically all the price action in the Asia and the European session is just all bullshit. Fuck that. I don't really believe that. I
Exactly.
don't buy that. So, and last week, so what Muhammad's charts do not show is that there are, I think it was a Tuesday and the Wednesday, those were gap days. We had gap ups on those days. And that was, yeah, and that's pretty important in the RTH. It's a fantastic, oh, gee whiz moment. Because on gap days, there's a particular uh, intraday trade that you can perform called either a gap and go or a gap to settle. So where the gap doesn't hold and all the buyers or sellers that are responsible for the gap lose their shit, or the buyers and sellers responsible for the gap that they have made, they push it to the fucking limit. So, anyways, yeah, we like to look at the overall picture in terms of the full session because yeah, we do give a shit about the slow ass Asia session, which has very little action and very little liquidity, and then the European session, which is basically the liquidity is a little lighter, but the action is just insane. It's kind of like the market took a bunch of Red Bull and just started smashing buttons at the same time. So ever since, so last week we made a very key low um, against the prior weeks, which is right there, and along the daily we were kind of in a mixed mash of just time frame down, time frame neutral, time frame up. It just like the market just was still carving out these higher lows, but it just could not get the oomph that it needed. But on Monday's action, we bottomed out, and on Tuesday we managed to break above Monday's high, shifting the market back up to neutral and closing at the highs. That was huge. So as you can see on the profile, it's got a very thin profile at the low in terms of the volume. There's some of those light gray bands. Those are known as single prints. Those are price points where they're only visited once in a 30-minute period. For the market to auction properly, it wants to auction those periods for those it wants to auction those prices for more than one time period, at least two. But singles are very powerful. It lets you know that, oh wow, there is some significant force behind this to where price is unable to come back and re-auction, which lets you know that there might be a really strong bid in the market. It could be news, it could be other forces at play. It could be shorts in the hole trying to get new lows and they couldn't do shit. And so, and again, like think if you're short oil and you see a low and a higher low and an even higher low, you're probably going to throw in the fucking towel and cover your position. And that's what actually that may have happened. There's a very interesting underlying bid for that last week, which really drove oil up, which was very impressive. But Tuesday, we had a gap. We left single prints behind. We closed at the highs. Wednesday, we continued to auction higher. Again, close at the highs. We're shifting value. We're shifting volume up. Um, and then Thursday was kind of a nice rest period. Uh, not rest in terms of, we did auction higher. We did test lower. We managed to close at the highs out of value, which was actually very interesting. So, the distribution was not the most impressive in terms of Gaussian, but nonetheless, I mean that's a very key thing for the market to not close at or near the VPOC, at or near what we would call value. Um, yeah, something just kept on running for oil. Friday was a big one. Friday we were kind of messing around in the overnight, pulled back to Thursday's volume point of control, and we just checked the buyers there. And again, that thing just kind of spread it on up, broke out against the multiple week high around those 65s, and it was pretty impressive. Like you could see, you could feel and see the spastic buying and the spastic short covering of people that were fucking toast after those 65, that 65.30 area, 65.41. Actually, that after that broke, that like shit itself to the upside, which is really nice, really interesting. What it also left behind were defect prints, singles, as it was coasting up. Single prints are points in the auction where either the bid or the offer is not traded. So if you see like a print go like 0 by 30, that means 30 contracts on the offer were traded but nothing at the bid. That is known as a defect. Those points tend to be re-auctioned eventually. They make great targets. They make great spots to kind of check how the auction pulls back and behaves, because usually they could fill and then continue on. Sometimes it could happen in terms of Friday where the market gets a little overheated to the upside, switches the time framing, and actually comes back and backfills. The only interesting thing about Friday is the fact that both the RTH and Globex open, the close was below them both. So the action at Friday's top seems a little suspect. Like, are we out of gas? Is this market out of gas? I mean, we just fucking broke out. And you could kind of think about if any of you guys actually ever read like How to Buy and Sell Stocks by William O'Neill, like the big breakout fuckers, like, hey, let's just take the breakout. Um, what happens when you take a breakout that comes right back and under it? You kind of wonder like, fuck, is this going to work? So yeah, it's something that we need to kind of keep an eye on for this week. So Mohammed and I like to check out some scenarios, and primary scenarios. Nothing is really wrong right now with oil. It's not like, oh yeah, that's the top. Like there's always going to be some fucking doom and gloomers out there, some retard on what's it called, X or YouTube, that is probably going to say, oh, the top is in. If you subscribe to my system, I could show it to you. No, we don't know. That's the thing. So we have to come up with these scenarios. So scenario one is that nothing is going wrong with oil. We have multiple gaps. This thing is auctioning higher. The music isn't over until we see some sort of shift. So what we could probably expect is, yeah, I mean, look at this, like, lower, higher, low, higher, low, higher, low. Like, damn, like this thing, every time it pulls back, finds buyers. So we're pretty much expecting, the primary scenario is to kind of pull back against that, maybe against that higher low, or even go as low as like 64 to maybe test that key LVN on the weekly, and scoop up, maybe go ahead and find buyers as deep as there to continue the upward onslaught. That's one possible scenario that I'm thinking. The alternate scenario is this market doesn't pull back; it just continues to go higher, but it does run into it might run into something up along on Friday's highs, right near Friday's highs. There was a significant volume that was traded up there around the was it 66 yeah 6630s. There was a really good exchange of volume to where we might go ahead and attempt higher and then not find enough interest to drive the market higher, and then we might come back in. That's one possibility. And just because we can't drive higher and come in doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to fall all the way back to 61, those 6160s and make a new low in the week. No, it's unless there's something really weird that's going on in news, peace in the Middle East, Trump trying to get his oil, down to 60 and succeeded somehow. Something has to drive us to go all the way down there. What this might take is just a temporary resting period. Might pull back in, um, and take a rest. Might check the balance point of last week. That's very possible. So it also might come in. I mean, if we want to talk deep dish, and attempt those highs and fail, there's a lot of repair that has to happen. There's one, two, three, four sets of single prints that I see that are existing in the full session. There's some definite defects, so that we could get some really nice repair. That could be a very interesting counter trend trade. You can't just throw it out there and say, oh yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give this a shot and see if it works, because you're going to get your fingers cut off. You're going to get your account blown up. You have to see things play out. You have to see some evidence before taking a trade like that. But anyways, that's just kind of my idea on what I think a primary and secondary scenario might be for oil. The tertiary is, maybe we just kind of balance around and kind of stay above the, maybe we could just go ahead and start balancing within Friday's area. That could be it, because we would have a very phenomenal day. But again, the close right below the open on such a fantastic day like that, we could test the edges of Friday's low and its high, and then just kind of bounce around it. This could be a very boring week. So that's very possible as well. So there's the two exciting scenarios of, let's pull back and go higher, let's test the highs and come back in, and then the dismal one is, let's just kind of fuck around and chop up players. And that's very realistic. The markets do need that. Every market needs to take a break. Um, if it's been on some upside, vengeful run. So yeah, what are your thoughts, Mohammed?
Yeah,
What do you
I
think?
agree. You had some very interesting thoughts. For me, just touching up a little bit on last week, what I found really interesting about last week, which allowed me to actually trade this long at this higher low, was this higher high that we had against the prior swing. To me, I thought that was like the first sign that buyers are actually stepping up. So what I wanted to see was, do the buyers actually hold another higher low? Like, were they gonna give that deep dish pullback trade? And they did. We pulled back pretty early in the week. I believe it was around Monday where we had this pullback. We held the higher low, and the market just continued higher. So that was like a pretty nice and like clean trade where buyers continue to hold the key higher lows. Now
Hmm.
on the daily time frame, we are time framing up, and when you look at the weekly, it's not as clear. So when we take a look at the weekly time framing, let me just do this. The weekly time framing is neutral. So we took out the prior weekly low, but we also took out the prior weekly high. So there isn't a clear trend on the weekly. And then we also have the same thing on the monthly, where the monthly was able to take out the prior month's low. But right now we're just trading within within last month's candle. So there isn't really a clear trend when we look at the weekly and when we look at the monthly. However, when you kind of zoom in a little bit, we are seeing some sort of trend on the daily.
Mhm.
Now, I also agree with Rob that the reaction on Friday's reaction was pretty interesting, and based on based on this reaction, how the market was just steady, time framing up the entire day, and then all of a sudden you just had this, you had this point where the market pivoted and it just sold off and closing below the open, really closing. I believe it was towards the low of the RTH session.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that was an interesting one
that
too.
was very interesting. And when we take a look on the RTH, what we have below us for the RTH, just like Rob said, we have two RTH gaps. This one is obviously a little bit more bigger than this one. And we also have singles. So to me, for my primary scenario, and I'm also basing this on the idea that we do have end of month. So Rob
Ah,
Yes,
yes,
Rob
the
told
end of the
me.
month.
Yes, so Rob told me way back, pay attention to end of month. Those times could be great, great opportunities. Like it was really end of month and first of month. So for I mean, why don't you share since you told me about it? What tends to happen around end of month?
All right, so one of my mentors who was out in Europe, he mentioned to me that um, the end of month trade is very important because commercials who have contracts that have, on their books that have already been delivered, if they have excess contracts, they got to let them go. So it could happen on the exact day of the end of the month. It could happen a day before. You just have to be aware of it. It's not like clockwork. Like, oh yeah, September 30th, bro, just fucking sell the world. No, if it was easy like that, I'm sure everyone would do it, and then we'd all be gajillionaires. No, it's not like that. Um, and also, another thing is, what if the market is extremely bullish and on an end of month scenario, the market doesn't really sell off. It holds. You can see an underlying bid really hold the action. That also is like a pretty big thing. But my mentor also mentioned that in the first of the month, do not fade a trend. So if a trend develops, do not fucking fade it, and you could probably hop on it and get it going for at least the next day or the day after that. So you can kind of align that with your scenario. Like if one of your scenarios is this ekes out, and finds resistance against last week's high and comes in, that could be your end of month scenario, and that happens tomorrow, the 29th and the 30th, or Monday and Tuesday. You might see some really great possibility. That I like that as your primary scenario. I actually didn't even think of that because wow, I don't know why. I just yeah, yeah. But it's my secondary. Maybe my primary and secondary are basically coin flips. But yes, yeah, for the end of month coming up, that's something that you want to have in the back of your head. Is if you're going to go ahead and buy the dip and hope for higher, you have to be aware that those commercial sellers out there are just going to lay on in, depending on how much surplus they have that they haven't sent out on delivery. So yeah, that could be a very interesting thing. That could be a very crazy week for this week.
Yeah.
So
So building a little bit off of that, based on the idea that, we do have end of month and just the way that Friday closed, I'm really interested in what the market does. At one, this VPOG from, I believe it's also the RTH VPOG. I'm not
mhm.
sure, but this VPOG as well as this low volume node. So really, what I want to pay attention to is, does the market come in? Do we struggle? Is there some sort of short pattern where we can take it and, the market moves lower? We start to repair the RTH gaps, we start to repair these singles. And I don't know if you pay attention too much to it, Rob, but there also is a naked TPO point of control. So
Yes.
we have one on, I believe this is Wednesday, and then we have one on
Hmm.
Tuesday. I mean, if we go all the way back to Tuesday's lows, that would be pretty crazy. I don't think I'm expecting all of that, But
No,
yeah,
anything's possible, right?
yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
definitely a move to test VPOC, this low volume node, which would also be sort of the first lower high. Well, maybe it could
Mhm.
be over here, the first lower high, and the market could start to work lower, or like Rob's primary scenario, the market simply just, I mean, I think this chart shows it a lot better. We just simply keep holding these higher lows and it just runs higher. So that could definitely be another possibility. But also, if we do hold a higher low, these guys, whoever's buying over here, these guys want the new high. So if they don't get their new high, that's just gonna be, a sign of caution that the short might be in play for end of month. So those are my scenarios for the week. That's kind of what I'm seeing and what I'm expecting. Obviously, we'll see what it does. So the reopen has already occurred. We can already see that the market is pushing up. So we actually opened below the in a gap, I believe. And then is it a uh
Yeah, it's an internal gap.
yes, an internal gap. So
Yeah.
so right now the market it looks like it's being responsive to that gap, and then we'll see where it goes from here. Do you have
Yeah.
anything else to share, Rob?
The whole thing about when you mentioned that buyers, maintaining that higher low, they want to see a higher high. Yes. And so what happens when that doesn't happen? When they, tell all their buddies and get the Nancy Pelosi email saying buy the fucking shit out of oil because we're sending this higher, and then it doesn't happen. And that's the beauty of futures trading is we're over we know a lovely trader by the name of FT71 over at Convergent, and he made a great analogy about futures traders are like soccer players with invertible jerseys. Like you could take the ball all the way down to the goal line, so in this case the buyers could take the ball all the way up to the high, and that's their goal line. Their goal line to get some sort of win is to make a new high because that's really good psychologically. That's exceptional, and shorts are probably going to be shit out of luck, and they're probably going to run for the hills. But if they can't do that, then they have to go to the other side. So they could switch jerseys, or they could basically say, "Shit, you know what? I can't even get to the goal. Fuck it, I'm going to play for the other side because my team sucks. We can't even get the damn high." So then they flip their shirts and they go to the sell side, and then they sell the shit out of the market. Whoever was the buyer now becomes a seller. Whoever's a seller now becomes a buyer, and so on and so forth. That's how this thing goes. So yeah, there's a lot of psychology behind, just watching basic trends, higher high, higher low, this and that. And
Yeah.
when things break, it's not the end of the world. It just lets them know, okay, maybe, when they switch their jersey, they're not going to be diehard sellers. They just have to be more on the idea of, you know what, I'm going to be switching my jersey back and forth more often. I might just be playing a range, and then I might be seeing how this range plays out. If there's really struggle right here, if there's a war between buyers and sellers within a range and buyers can't get shit, sellers keep making ground, then yeah, then that's enough energy that could explode to the downside. So the argument goes both ways. It could be to where there's some consolidation and sellers can't make squat. They cannot make new lows, against some sort of, relative point. And then they finally give in and throw in the towel and say, fuck this. It could be to where we get some news, and then that really puts the market, offsides. That's also a possibility. So it'd be nice to maybe have a week without one sliver of news that doesn't spaz the market out. I know every Wednesday we have the EIA, but sometimes it's just a dud, and then other times it's insane. So, but yeah, other than that, I don't really have much to offer or add to the this little
Weekly recap we
review.
got.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I guess the only thing that I would add is one, this is not trading recommendations. We're just both
Yes.
sharing our opinions on what we see. So I'm not sure. Do you have the disclaimer on the top of your head? I mean, I kind of feel like I kind of said it there, but if we
Yeah, what is it? Derivatives trading is is not
not
suitable
suitable.
for all investors. past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
Yeah.
And the danger of trading derivatives is you could lose more than what your account is. If you're buying and selling stocks, well, if you're buying, stocks, the most you could lose is just your entire account to zero because you could, buy something in the .com boom and it turns into a flaming piece of shit. How as futures with leverage, you can actually blow up your account, and if you trade with some really shitty brokers, and you lose your ass, you could lose more than what your account might be valued at. So
Yeah.
if you're setting up a $5,000 account and saying I'm going to trade futures, and then you somehow get missed on a margin call or whatever, and then your account is negative 25,000. Yeah, just that's the disclaimer. Derivatives trading involves, very risky products where you could lose more than what your normal, account is. And then yes, past performance is not indicative of future results, and this is just shit that we talk about. These are not trading recommendations. This is for entertainment purposes only. That is our disclaimer. That's pretty much about it. So,
And then I guess the
yeah.
one other thing that I would add is for that short, I mean, you have to take a look. Like just like Rob said, this thing is printing higher lows, so this short is definitely going to be a trade that's against the grain. So when we're kind of taking these against the grain trades, it's really about kind of keeping your risk tight, knowing when you're wrong and just really moving on and not holding on to that bias. I just felt like I had to put that out there just in case, someone tries to take the short and I don't know, they get stopped out or they're still holding it and I don't know. So that's just something I wanted to get out there as well.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right, and that's all we have for this week's recap. If you guys enjoyed it, let us know. Leave a comment, a like, subscribe, and we will catch you guys in next week's recap. And I'm not sure if Rob will do do you plan on doing daily videos?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get some daily videos, and I'm actually in the middle of switching my charting platform. I've been a subscriber of Investor RT for the longest time ever, for years. And since you and I were actually talking together, and you were showing how easy Sierra Charts is, I just said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna throw in the fucking towel on Investor RT." I feel like mentally just gone when I'm trying to mess with stuff, and you're showing things that are just so easy and like, yeah, I'm just gonna do this the easy way. It just seems so much more fluid. Um, so yeah, I'm probably gonna be changing up my charts. Not my trading platform, of course, that's Bookmap, but yeah, definitely my charting platform. So probably when my charting platform gets in line with yours, I'll be doing a lot more daily videos, especially the stuff that we can share together. So I don't mind doing some daily videos on the soon to be out, get shot out of a cannon platform IRT, but it is what it is. I'll probably still make some content for the
Sounds
time
good.
being.
All right, so make
Yeah.
sure you guys check out those daily videos to kind of keep up to what Rob is seeing. And that's all we have for today. Take care.
All right. Take care, guys.